When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, and that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain What's that word there?
Unalienable.
With certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is in the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new governments.
Welcome to End Time Talk Radio, where the truth is usually stranger than fiction. The purpose of these shows are not to scare you, but to prepare you, because what you don't know could hurt you. The word says in Hosea 4:6, "My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge." Thank you for joining us. My name is Julie, and here is the host of the show, Barry Meyer.
Welcome to End Time Talk Radio. Hey, we have a great show. Last week you heard In Defense of a Nation Roundtable. We pulled Michael Mucune out of that table into just a conversation between him and I, a 30-minute conversation of what's currently going on now. Michael had worked as an auditor for the IRS, and so he knows a lot of few things that are going on. And Michael, if I ask you a question of how many counties in the U.S., how many could you say?
How many what?
How many counties are in the United States?
3,171.
So that's quite a bit. What you do is we talked about it in the roundtable, and I think it's good to bring it up again, but you actually pull these stats out of these counties. I don't know, do you do it every week or kind of find out what's going on besides what the government's saying?
I do it on a monthly basis.
Okay.
And what I do is take what the counties report as jobs, what they report as unemployment in their area, and then what they report as the workforce in their area.
You know, we always hear from the government these stats, and so often we believe the polls that come along. We believe what we've been told, but it's on the contrary. When you talk about stuff, you're actually pulling up stats and polls or things like that are actually contradicting what the government's saying.
Yes. The government's underreporting unemployment, for instance, and part of the reason is, of course, they want to not really, they were trying to depict a true picture of what the workforce was, but in the adjustments that they make, they're not consistent from one month to the next, or even from one quarter to the next. And so as a result, they manipulate the number to the best possible light for the administration, and trying to bolster people to believe things are better than what they really are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And where that problem comes in then is the people on Main Street No, they can see neighbors closing shops. They can see more neighbors that are having to go to food stamps, or more neighbors that are needing housing assistance. When they see this, and then the government says, "Oh, everything's getting better," it gives a base for a lie.
Mm-hmm. Now, as you pull up from the counties, what do you see? How should let me reframe it? When you pull up the stats on all the counties, where do you see the most counties that are doing the best right now?
Which ones are doing the best?
Like a region, I guess.
Okay, if you really want to see a state that is doing fantastic, it would be North Dakota in this area. Actually, we're quite fortunate. We have two of the top three states actually in the region here in Nebraska and North Dakota.
Now, North Dakota and South Dakota and Wyoming, is that affected by the oil?
Yes, and that's exactly what's causing some of that basis. Nebraska is doing better because, again, it's mostly an agricultural state, and it doesn't have very many large cities.
Oh, and so the cities are actually showing the problem areas then.
Yeah, cities are a problem area still because the manufacturing jobs that built the cities are no longer there.
Yeah, when you look at Detroit, of course, other places, and I just seen, there was some stuff about Chicago. I don't remember now, but it seems like they're on the verge or they already have gone over the cliff of financial bankruptcy. Well,
and one of the funny ones you're talking about, not just cities but other government entities, is the California Toll Road Authority is about to go belly up.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah, and again, you pay for that every time you get on one of those roads, and yet either they're not collecting enough, there's some shenanigans going on somewhere, or they have just simply spent so much more than they could possibly take in. And I think it's a combination of a downturning economy. People aren't traveling to and from work like they were. And if they don't have money, they don't go to ball games, or they don't go to the theaters, or they don't go out for an evening and dinner and use those toll roads.
When we're living here in Cheyenne, Wyoming, we don't feel the hurt like in other places. And that's actually pretty fortunate for us.
Yes. We're kind of insulated.
Now, what do you still see for like the real estate market? How do you see it out here?
Real estate is going to have a problem when the rates start going up again. The biggest problem that I had with real estate was the real estate market that disappeared after 2008 is not the same real estate market that came back. And the reason I say that is because prior to 2008, most homes were owned by private individuals. Okay, after the one that's come back is a market that has been driven by businesses buying homes and using the homes as an investment property for lease purposes rather than home ownership. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, we all know that people that rent or people that don't have a vested interest don't take as good a care of the property as people that are homeowners for the most part. And therefore, I think you're going to see home values actually diminish for future generations. They're not going to see the value of owning a home.
You can actually see some of the houses around Cheyenne that actually are vacant because they have the grass growing around them, and you just know that they've been vacant. Are we going to see more of that happen where we'll see more vacant homes?
It's going to. Most of our urban areas are going to have places or spots within them that resemble the horror scenes that you've seen coming out of Detroit.
Mm-hmm. And that can be very scary because people, they depend on their jobs and for security, When that security gets taken away, how do people react?
They don't.
Yeah.
They don't pay. They one of the bills that they don't pay is the mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
It's strange, but the bankers are the ones that are really feeling this switch from private home ownership to investment property. They have taken and just laid off the banking industry, just laid off some 23,000 workers this last month, the month of August, because they no longer have a need for these home mortgages. They're being bought by businesses, and the businesses are handling the transactions of getting somebody into them and paying rent rather than paying mortgages. Wow.
When people start losing their jobs, I'm trying to look for this news story right now. It says here, companies lay off thousands, but then demand immigration reform to bring in new workers. Have you seen that happening?
Yes, because again, the lower wage,
mm-hmm.
because of a lower wage, and one of the things that has been another phenomenon that we've been seeing is jobs are being listed. There's more jobs listed for as vacant right now than there has been in years. But these positions are not being filled by full-time people. So if a full-time guy went away, what they're doing is they're taking two part-timers to try and fill that, or they are waiting until they get somebody with an exact match of skill set to what they're looking for before they'll put them in. It's causing a real problem for employment agencies and stuff because the people that they're able to place are not getting the same wage, and therefore their commission is a lot less than it was.
And right now, where are you seeing that sector happen? Is it like in the industry? Is it like in service work?
It's in all sectors.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that sounds a little upsetting, but it's in all sectors. And one of the looming problems is with Obamacare. In fact, the unions, who are big supporters of the original idea, are now demanding that they also get special consideration because they're seeing too many of the jobs that their rank and file fill going bye-bye because of Obamacare and the move to part-time work. Well, if you're on part-time work, you don't qualify for Obamacare, so the employer doesn't have to worry about paying that.
But the person does.
But the person will still have to pay it. There's no problem there for the companies.
Yeah.
But they don't care if you're full-time or part-time. But they can take two part-time people and probably get the same production as they have for one full-time person. Also, one of the things that is being overlooked is maybe, just maybe, this recovery isn't as rosy as what the White House would like to have you believe. And when I say that, the dollar amount, because they've devalued the dollar so much, that inflation has taken over, and we are seeing more dollar volume for a good that's being created. But by the same token, the number of units is going down, so that we don't have quite as many people required to produce these units. They're still making a nice profit because of inflation, or compared. But if you take out inflation, take out a true inflation figure, then this recovery is a lot worse than it appears.
Well, Michael, the average person in a job, can they kind of see some signs of their job that they're getting ready to go part-time and start cutting things?
If you are working in a smaller business where they can get around the 50 employee mandate by putting some people that were full-time, switching them to contract, or if they are full-time, cutting back their hours, turning somebody here or there, then I would be more concerned about that. One of the ones that I would tell people to really look at is if you're working at a college. If you're not a full full-time professor, if you're not a full-time faculty member, like if you are a secretary or if you're in the accounting department or whatever, they may be shifting you to hourly wage, and therefore they can claim that you are a contracting employee simply because you're on an hourly wage, not on a salary anymore, and you don't count against the 50 person quota. That's the limit on Obamacare.
Interesting. Now, what about these foreign U.S. banks now that are not going to longer have insurance that's going to cover their $250,000 in banks in their bank account? Yeah.
Again, that's a perception. There was never there was a guarantee from the government up to the point where they could handle it. And what they would do is they would charge the banks like basically an insurance premium to belong to FDIC, so that then they would pool the money to cover the losses by the banks. Where that they raised the limit from $100,000 to $250,000 to avoid a run on the banks back in 2008. But the thing that when they did that, what they messed up on was it is still only an insurance program, and there are more demands for the money than what they can really cover. So they have collected premiums now through 2015, 2 years in advance on the premiums that they've collected from the banks to cover FDIC. And they still are scraping the bottom of the barrel. So they may have to ask for more advance premiums from the banks just to cover the shape that they're in. To prove how bad the bank shape is really in, as of Friday, I don't know if it's Friday night or if it takes effect Thursday night for Friday's trading. I think it takes effect on Friday after the trading day is over. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is going to drop J.P. Morgan Chase from its 30 industrial rankings because the value of the per share has dropped so low, and they're going to replace it with something else.
Interesting. Well, now, didn't the New York Stock Exchange, aren't they dropping like 3 major companies off the New York Stock Exchange?
Yes. Three of the former blue chippers are being dropped because the value of their shares has dropped so far.
That can't be good.
No. Again, it just shows that there's no recovery in the recovery.
So when they say recovery, how do you get somebody to wake up that there's no recovery?
That's it.
Yeah.
It's not there. It's like it's another red line for Obama. Well, technically, if you wanted to look at it without the inflation factor, we probably came out of the recession in June of 2009, like they said. But when you have the double whammy of of inflation, a devaluation of the dollar because the Federal Reserve is buying our own bonds, we're monetizing our own debt, and then more people not being able to go back and get a job that paid as much as they had before, it's a recovery in theory only. It's yet to been proven that it's got anything on its own that it can salvage.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay, so like with Syria, do we go to war or do we not? What's your thoughts?
There's nothing that can be done in Syria that's going to be any good for the United States. Both sides are against us in reality. When you look at it, I told my congressman in a town hall meeting just 2 days ago, you cannot make a decision or ask me to vote for or against it, because they were taking a poll type thing, and you can't ask for that unless you tell us the classified information that you have access to that we don't.
Well, that's true.
You're our elected officials, but you're hiding stuff, and I don't trust any of them that anything that's coming out of Washington to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. It's always somebody's perspective. There's always an agenda behind it, and therefore they're asking us to make a decision as an individual whether we support it or not. I don't support it just because there's too many secrets within the system, too many lies within the system, and if really and truly there's an outrage over the use of gas, chemical weapons against the opposing forces, then where was the outcry when 310,000 children were killed in the Iraqi war by chemical weapons?
Yep, that's very true.
Now all of a sudden, because there was 400 kids killed, we're supposed to be upset. It doesn't matter to the kids how it happened. They're dead.
Yes. You know, I've been watching India with their economy, and it's basically their money crashed. And their monetary system is in the same shape ours is. They've got too much fiat floating around. So how come they went first before us?
Because their people switched their purchasing habits. They no longer were buying goods and services. They were anybody that had an extra dollar or an extra rupee was putting it into gold, and they were hoarding gold. The Indians and the Chinese are both hoarding gold, private stashes of gold.
Now, last I seen, gold for them was like 1,800 something an ounce out there.
Yeah, but when it's on the world market, it's basically the same price.
Okay.
There's some subsidies, but yeah, it's basically the same price, same value as what it is here.
So what warning signs should we be looking for via India, via Cyprus, via our bank accounts? What are some things that people can look for in the next month?
You're going to see some people, some banks, are simply not going to be open. I think the banking collapse is getting very near because there's no return. It's just like now, the news is extremely bad, and Wall Street has gone crazy the last, all 4 days this week. It's gone nuts. It's just going straight up. And the reason is because of what the Fed has said about continuing its policies if the news is bad. Only if we reach a certain point in the recovery, blah, blah, blah. They're going to continue supporting the markets. They're going to continue printing money. They're going to continue buying U.S. debt. All this is doing is hastening. It's covering it up for the immediate purpose, but it's hastening the day when the dollar is totally disregarded by the rest of the world. And you brought up India.
Mm-hmm.
Well, India and China together comprise more than 1/3, almost 1/2 of the world's population now. And yet, those economies are also in trouble. Western Europe is in trouble. So where's going to be the savior like it was after World War II? Where's going to be the savior economy that magically appears like the United States did in the 1940s? Where's that going to be in the future? Where's that savior nation going to come from now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is none.
Because they're all overextended. This was the problem. The G20 that President Obama just went to, it has no teeth because each and every one of those countries is in debt.
Yeah. Okay, so we're not trying to tell people how to invest their money, but what are some things that you could maybe give people ideas on how to get ready for this collapse? What can they do for the near future?
And this is the win-win-win, lose-lose-lose situation, right?
Yeah.
Actually, right now, almost, if you sit still, just sit tight on everything, you still may lose it all, simply because of the collapsing dollar. If you turn it around and try to hedge your bets against other things, I'm not well versed enough in foreign markets to be able to say, hey, here's a spot you can invest, or here's a spot you can invest in. You have to look at your own hearts. You have to look inside yourself. And one of the things that I think is going to happen you're going to have a supply of food. I think it's going to be the fuel, so that if you're in a city, you're not going to. It doesn't matter what you have, because there's not going to be food available. You're going to have to live in a rural area in order to obtain food, because it's going to be simply overpowering, too expensive to spend that kind of money to get these commodities to the supermarkets, and they only have 3 days supply at best in their storehouses. So all this stuff has to move, and I just don't think it's got a spot where it can really. You're going to be sitting there going, okay, I guess I'm going to have to gas up because there's no food. I'm going to have to go over to the next town. Mm-hmm. Then you go to gas up, and you find out what the cost of it is, because it's going to be mounting pretty much like the Weimar Republic did, and there's going to be 2.5 to 3.5% increase in prices hourly.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yes, and so, like I say, I've had this question tossed at me many times, and I just kind of shrug my shoulders, and I have to tell people, I don't know what's the best situation. I can't advise you because I don't know enough about you, or I don't know enough about where your segment is at. You have to make that decision. You have to look in your heart and figure out what it is you're going to do. Now, you and I have some friends down in Colorado mm-hmm. that are stocking up on prepared meals for. It's going to get tiresome to eat. But sure. At least you'll have something to eat. And again, who knows? Because most of us are stuck on city or government provided water. That's how they may keep us in line. We'll turn the water on if you're a good person.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's like I say, this thing that's coming at us right now, and nobody respects America anymore. Nobody fears America anymore. So we're going to pretty much be on our own, and I think the rest of the world is going to enjoy watching America struggle for a change, because we've always been the one that seems to have had everything that we could possibly want.
And I think it's going to be hard for those who move overseas that are Americans, because they might be treated as second-class citizens.
At that point, yes. Well, we're going to find out if they no longer need the dollar, or if the dollar loses its benchmark status, and they go to something that's from the World Bank or from the International Monetary Fund, or even a coin that's devised by the United Nations, we will find out how few friends in the world America really has.
Okay, with that all being said, I caught the last In Defense of a Nation, the Children of the Corn. When will Americans actually start standing up and saying, okay, it doesn't matter anymore, I'm tired of all this government corruption, I'm going to say no?
I think you're seeing it right now.
Yeah.
I think it started, and it's funny you asked, because that was on the Glenn Beck show this morning. He asked a senator the same question, and what the guy said was, we don't want to break away. We don't want to form a third party, but we're almost at the point where we're having to turn our backs on the party that, the one that we like, because they are not listening to us either. They're all in it together, and the new ones that have some kind of integrity left are finding out that the old boy syndrome is not letting them do anything. So and that was about the vote. But I'm going to turn the tables on you.
Okay.
Did you listen to the president's press speech about Syria last night or the night before, whatever it was?
No, I didn't actually, because I can't stand them.
Yes, I grant you, because the thing is, what good does it do you? You don't know if he's telling you the truth.
Yeah.
And what he may believe, and I've heard this argument from other senators or other people in this IRS scandal and stuff, they may believe that what they're telling you is the truth. And they're saying, the judges in it are saying, well, that's okay. They believed it, so it's not a lie. Baloney.
Yeah.
You know it's a lie. I know it's a lie. I can put the figures together and show how half of what they're saying is a lie. And yet, by the same token, they turn around and they're not convicted. They're not held to the standard. They don't lose their job. They don't lose their pay. They don't lose their seat in Congress. How can those guys sit there, and I don't care who it is, they've got an honorable in front of their name, and they accept this lie in my name?
Yeah, that's
They
true.
accept this non-truth in my name and your name because they're our representatives. And this just absolutely aggravates me beyond belief.
Well, I will call the local radio station here. In my last comment that I called Michael, and I said this, how did I put it? I basically said that we need to build a museum prison. We need to put the president, the so-called president, in there. We need to teach our kids that this shall never be happen again. And I told the local guy, I said, it's coming to the point where I think we're going to need a military coup to pull him out, because it's time for freedom to speak once again.
Yes, and Barry, you're exactly right. This is a situation where again, we've talked about Syria, but we have to go to Syria.
Oh yeah, according to Hosea 7.
And we have to make sure that these things are right, but what they've said, look at how often their story has changed. And I've been tracing a thing, trying to find out why all this different stuff of Benghazi and all these things occurred. But if you listen to what they're saying, well, we have to go in, we have to do something, we have to get involved. Mm-hmm. And the reason Benghazi was hit is we were already involved. I'm not too certain now that the 9/11 attacks they didn't attack an innocent country. They attacked a country that was already over there, causing mischief in their countries through our CIA or whatever. And our government did it in the name of security. But two of the people that were killed with Ambassador Stevens in Benghazi were data technicians. They are electronic spy masters. Mm-hmm. They were running stuff not to wire up our embassy or to keep our embassy in touch with the rest of the world. They were over there spying, gathering data on these other countries, these other citizens, and then what they were doing with it, who knows? But it was in the name of security for the United States that they were doing it. Well, that makes them a spy. We're all in love with the James Bond spy movies, mm-hmm. where, he's a big hero, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? Spies are dirty people that deserve to be shot, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And close the embassies around the world. Bring our CIA, bring those people back to America, and close those down. It's a waste of money. And make sure that the people that are over here, these countries that are over here with their embassies, we know that they have spies in them. We know what they're doing, and they've got this diplomatic immunity. Get them out of our country. We don't need them anymore. We can't afford them anymore. Mm-hmm. And so in this particular area, but I've been tracing this, and I've almost, I need one more piece of evidence. I know the guns weaponry went from the United States to Libya and in our embassy over there. And yet that weaponry is never listed on the data that I've been able to look at, access as being a resource in that embassy. So where did it go? If it went over there, then where did it go from there? Mm-hmm. Because they're not listing it as being there in that embassy. So maybe it did, as was alleged, go to Turkey and then into Syria through that back door. We don't know.
Well, now, what are you...
The biggest problem we have is with people that sit there and go, oh, well, we got to go in and we got to do something about Syria. No, we've already armed these people. We've been giving them funds, giving them stuff for years. And who was it that hit our embassy, actually? Not the people that they were upset because of that dumb video that we were told over and over was the cause of it. But who were the people that hit us? We still don't know for sure who was paying them or who was directing that assault.
Follow the paper trail, you'll find out who was doing that for sure, but there's no paper trail.
Yeah, well, right now we haven't been able to access it. But I'll tell you something else, and this is about Edward Snowden. Regardless of what has been said about Snowden and all the denials that came out in those congressional hearings from the NSA, they are spying on Americans. They have exceeded their authority over and over and over again. And this is one, we are paying for this. I have documented proof now of a slush fund that they had set up. It's called the Special Source Operations, that they used to pay the internet providers like Yahoo and Google or Verizon or whoever it was that they wanted access to their records. And those people went up and said, we didn't give them authority. No, they didn't give them authority to get into their records. They sold the records to them, and there's proof out there if you just know where to look. And thank God for Edward Snowden, because he put me on that trail.
Yeah. I just seen now some new stuff came out. Now they're saying that Israel's been getting our information too.
Yes. Well, again, it's just like your IRS information. You know, allegedly, this is why how the IRS could operate so well is because they didn't share. It was secure. Now we know that because of the Lois Lerner deal, that the IRS shared individual or corporate tax information with 17 different agencies.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, they've lost all credibility to function because of that. And you want these people to make the judgment on whether or not you deserve health care or not? You're going to leave it up to the bean counters at the IRS? And yet that's exactly what the Supreme Court did when they declared it a tax and gave the authority to the IRS.
Pretty sad.
And we all have some health care situations that are coming up. Well, if you don't have that taken care of in the next 3 months, and you happen to be over the age of 45, I think you might as well just start shopping for a casket. That may be the last expenditure you ever have to make.
Yeah. With all those financial problems happening, how long do you give it before things really start imploding here?
Okay, I'm going to back you up onto the Bible.
Okay.
Amos 8, Amos saw the basket of summer fruit.
Yes.
We are getting close to the time. I've talked with a lot of different people. The basket of summer fruit to me indicates that the harvest has been completed. Okay?
Yes.
It hasn't yet been, the corn is into the silos, but it hasn't yet gotten to the manufacturing places like Kellogg's or General Mills, wherever it is that they turn it into different foodstuffs, corn syrup or whatever it happens to be. But the harvest has been completed. So to me, that means I'm looking at the end of October up to the Christmas season. And there's 2 or 3 different places in the Bible where they say that the day of feasting shall be no more. Well, the day of feasting is either in the spring or in the fall. Well, we call one Easter and the other one Christmas. And if the day of feasting, that's the day where the promise was delivered, I think we're going to have a whole lot of I don't think we're going to make it. I just, like I say, I'm not saying it's going to happen this year. That's what the problem is.
Yeah.
It's got to be in the fall, the late fall, but it's what year that happens. That's going to be the toss-up.
Well, hey, Michael, I appreciate you very much for coming on. Can you have you mention to the people about the rant and how you're going to be changing here soon?
Yeah, I write twice weekly column. It's called The Rant, and what we're trying to get it to do is I have somebody that wants to sponsor it, and they want to charge $20 a year to receive The Rant. Right now, it's free. And I'm, like I say, I'm in negotiations with DMI, and I'm trying to find out how that's going to actually work. I started writing the rant as therapy, so I didn't get so blooming angry. I didn't keep it inside. But over the last 4 years, it's really taken off. I have a great many readers, and I want people to be able to enjoy it. In fact, just today again, I've received 2 or 3 requests today to be added to the list, and it seems like that happens daily anymore. And that's it, but it's called The Rant. You can just contact you here at End Time Talk Radio, and you can get with me or forward that information to me, and I'll make sure I get them on the list.
Okay. Well, Michael, this was great having you on. I think if I could, maybe I could set up maybe like once a month and have you come on, because I think things are going to be so tenuous.
Things right now, and this is something else when you're talking about the rant. I used to have to look to find something to write about that was really important, and nowadays it's just dropping out of the sky. I've got to actually cull it to make sure that I'm getting what I feel has been the most, or is the most important at that particular moment in time.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely very interesting for what's happening.
Yeah, and again, Syria has been a topic. The unemployment situation has been a recurring theme, but the fact that our government is lying to us and how they're lying to us has been another consistent theme over the last 3 years.
Well, definitely I'll have you on again real soon, Michael, because it's very important.
Thank you, Barry.